everybody, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to part 4 of my 2019 January tarot deck collection video series thing. I'm going to do this with my oracle decks too, just not today because my voice is actually dying because I've been recording for a while. But this is the last few decks in my collection as of right now. There are a few more decks on the way, which if I have time at the end of this video, I will talk about. But for now, I'm going to show you what else is left in my collection. So the next deck I'm going to talk about, this is the original 1980s version of the Mythic Tarot. Now, this was a secondhand copy that I got that is very well worn and well loved. I do have every intention of trimming this deck. The cardstock is very, very thin. I think trimming it will give it a little more sturdiness, plus these borders are gi-frickin-gantic and I need them gone. I am going to be studying this deck throughout 3 months this year, reading the guidebook. I did get an original version of the guidebook as well, which makes me really happy. I found that recently. So I will be working with this deck for a few months to really learn the stories and get to know it, because I adore the art and I adore Greek myth, but I wasn't familiar enough with this out of the box to read with it with the Greek myth layered into my readings, and I want to be able to do that. It does read fine out of the box for me if I just look at the titles and the what's the card and read it according to classic tarot, and the imagery is done in a way that you can do that, but I want to go deeper, and so I'm going to be studying this and getting to know it better, and if I still don't love it at that stage, then I will rehome it. But this one is supposed to come back out a little bit later this year in a fresh copy. I'll be keeping my eyes out for that as well. Next up, I literally filled up a laundry basket with all of my tarots. It's kind of fun to be able to also show all the matches of Peggy bags to my decks. So this is the Naked Heart Tarot by Jillian C. Wild. I was really, really thrilled with this deck. This was, between this and the Brady Tarot, those were the two decks that helped me to let go of the Wild Unknown, which I never fully resonated with, but felt like I was supposed to. Just saying. Look at this freaking guidebook. So I have read the entire thing, and it's really good. And it gives you so much to work with, which would make this a really wonderful starter deck. This was, at the time that I bought it, available on Amazon in the US, not in Canada, but in the US. And I think it's temporarily unavailable, but I don't think it's out of print. So definitely take a look online. This is a beautiful, wonderfully done deck. The cardstock is really wonderful. It's matte. The backs are beautiful. They are crystal grid there that you can work with, and she talks about that in the book. It's minimalist, has a lot of white space while still being vivid, and when there is artwork on the card, which is, of course, there's artwork on every card, but when there's more colorful artwork on the card, it's very vivid artwork. So it kind of is, to me, what I think Wild Unknown has been to some other people. And some people love both decks, and that's great. This is the only minimalist deck, what I would call minimalist, that I have wanted to keep. And I really did connect with this one. I find it really wonderful to read with. It leaves some room for interpretation. So again, that can make it difficult for beginners, but the guidebook more than makes up for that. If you're new, I think you would have no problem learning on this deck because the guidebook is so good. There's also some great astrology symbols woven into the cards that are not too difficult to find. So you see the Aquarius symbol there. Hopefully that showed up on camera. But yeah, this is really, really wonderful. There is one extra card in here called the Naked Heart, which I have left in the deck. Most of the time I leave extra cards in as long as they make some sort of sense to me, or I feel like I can read them intuitively. But I love this deck, and this would be, I think, a really good deck to reach for somebody who wants that sort of, where you want to read a non-peoply deck for them. But yeah, I really like this one, and I'm super happy to have it. I can feel my voice going. So much talking. I also did some client readings today, so that's also a thing. Naked Heart. So good. Next. Oh boy. I got some things to say. So this is the stunning Spirit Keepers Tarot by Benabel Wen. At the time I'm filming this, I am currently studying this deck for January, February, and March. This is a really special deck, and I don't know how else to say it. There are some significator cards, and there are ways that those are meant to be used by the deck creator, but you can use them in whatever way makes sense to you. These are the backs, and so you can see that I asked Peggy to design me an embroidery that would be inspired by this deck, and this is what she came up with. I think it's really beautiful. These cards have a really cool feel. They're not at all slippery, but they're still matte. It's the coolest thing, and they are beautifully gilded. They are black and white images, and I didn't think I would ever like a black and white deck, but I do really love this deck. You can read it right out of the box like a classic Rider-Waite-Smith deck, or probably like a Thoth deck or Marseille deck if you wanted to. I read primarily Rider-Waite, and it worked beautifully for me just right out of the box. But there's so much more to it, and I am currently reading the very thick, like 600-ish page guidebook, the Book of Maps, and there's a lot more that this deck is capable of should you choose to dive into the more esoteric uses for this deck. It's beautifully produced. The thing I have to say is this: she has put out, or is currently accepting pre-orders at the time I'm filming this, for a second edition called the Vitruvian. The second edition has sepia tones and a more parchment looking background, and I kind of love the look of it, but I don't think this is the kind of deck I can have doubles of, if that makes any sense. And I think by the time I can really decide what I think about that second edition, I will have bonded too much with this deck to be able to part with it, which I think is kind of the intent for this particular deck. Is I think it's really meant to be sort of keyed to you personally as you work with it. But the new edition does look beautiful, and I think if I had it to do like all over, I might lean that way, but I don't mind the black and white. And I've been doing a lot of coloring in the Book of Maps, which is helping me to see color even when I just pull a black and white card. So that's kind of cool. The bag for this is stunning. I love it. It's got a thread on it that's red. Okay, there we go. Another deck I'll be studying in 2019 is next in my pile here. This is the Dreams of Gaia Tarot by Raven Phelan. This artwork is so freaking beautiful. The guidebook for this deck is also absolutely incredible and has a lot of really healing stuff in it, a lot of really good psychology type stuff in it. I'm going to be studying this deck for a few months also this year, so I will have an opportunity to get to know it better, because there are some structure changes through the major arcana. So this is 24 faith. So there is more than 22 major arcana, and they are restructured a bit. And that's what I really want to be more comfortable and familiar with. But I love this deck, and when I pull cards and read the meanings in the guidebook, if I'm not sure what it's about, I get really powerful messages. So once I know this deck better, I will use it with clients, but for now it's only been for me, and it's been really powerful when I've used it. So I really love it. Looking forward to getting to know it even better this year as part of my depth year. Just a few more to go, you guys. By a few, I mean like 5, but we're almost there. So this is my stunning, stunning Moonchild. This is another bag size that Peggy has now too, that was inspired by this deck specifically, because I like to keep them in their boxes and then put them in a Peggy bag. So this is the Jumbo Peggy bag, if you ever see one in her shop, and she embroidered it with the design that I helped her to create, which is inspired by this deck, and I'll show you how and why. So this deck, on the backs of all of the cards, there is, I don't know why I have cards, oh, I know why, okay. On the backs there is a cartouche. It's different. I wanted to add this dark moon to the design, so it would be new moon, gibbous, waning crescent, and then full, or however, whichever direction. I'm not saying it right. But anyway, so it's slightly different, but it reminds me of with all that gold. So love it. This is so good. Anyway, if you are considering a Danielle Noel deck and you are either newer to tarot or you really like the images to convey the meaning really well, then this, I think, does a better job of it from a Rider-Waite-Smith perspective than the Star Child does. The Star Child to me is a little more pippish. This one does a really beautiful job, even where there are more pippish cards, like this Ten of Pentacles. I just feel like this deck does overall a better job of conveying the imagery, or conveying the messages rather, with the imagery. I love the color palette. I love the size. It is a chunky deck, so it's a bit wider than a classic tarot, or than a like a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. But I love bigger decks, so this feels like a really nice size. It's not too big to be able to handle it well. Gold gilded with that antique sort of matte gold. So pretty. Love it, love it, love it.
Love big decks.
Peggy's helping in the background. Just ignore her. She's helping. She's helping. We don't talk about big decks. Oh, and the inside is that lavender color to match this dusty lavender on the box. Oh, the box is also slightly textured. It's beautiful. I love it so much. And I think this made my top 5 this year as well, which was a surprise because I was kind of on the fence about my Star Child. So that was exciting. If you hear a squeak, it's my chair. Sorry. And then this is the Tarot of the Hidden Realm. Now I edged this in a like copper color. I may some point re-edge this in either a gold color to match the fronts, which is tempting, or more of a gray, silvery kind of color, but the edging of this was quite a process. I did film a video showing me doing it, and I will link that in the description box. I will say it took like days to fully dry, which was really annoying, but this is a beautiful deck. It's really, really unique. If you have only a few decks or you want only a few decks in your collection and you want some with a unique voice, this is definitely one worth considering, something to shake things up a bit. The images are beautiful. They are all really close-up images of people, and each of these people, well, Faye, has a story to tell. And the guidebook, which is written by Barbara Moore, literally tells the story. So there's a narrative for each one of the cards in this deck, which is one of the things that makes it just so incredible to work with. It's really special and really unique, and once you have gotten to know the stories of these characters, I think it will stay with you in a really vivid, powerful way that will make it just beautiful to work with. I've only worked with this deck so far for a week, and I'm not as familiar with the stories on the cards as I want to be, so I'm looking forward to getting more familiar with them, but I love this deck. I think it's really, really pretty and fun to work with as well. And I've got this like cool like duochrome kind of bag, color shifts, which just felt really appropriate for it. Almost through this one and 2 more. Okay, so this deck is the Prisma Visions deck. Oh, I need to work with this one again because this one, I don't know, it's really pretty from a distance, which sounds really funny, but when you get it up close under, at least for me, under my eyes, it starts to get a little busy feeling. But it really is stunning. I think I almost like the majors better, and I wonder if partly that's because they're more contained with a border, which is strange to say. But there's a lot of activity happening in this deck. It's funny because this deck does give me impressionist art vibes, for sure. There's a lot of like dots and swirls and etherealness to this deck. And what really attracted me to this is that if you lay out the minors from ace to king, I think it is, maybe even just ace to 10, but I think the courts are included, it shows a beautiful panoramic picture that tells the story. But when you mix it up and you pull it out in a reading, sometimes these get a little muddy feeling to me. So I'm looking forward to working with them again and seeing if my feelings change. Either way, it is a beautiful deck. I love the majors. Like, look at this hermit. Oh, so pretty. It's a really interesting deck to work with, and I'm looking forward to working more with it. It's got beautiful silver gilding. Prisma Visions. Really lovely. This one is by James R. Eads is the artist. I didn't know that one by heart, which is interesting. I think I remember liking the guidebook, that it had lots of good stuff in it that will help. So now that I'm making a point of always reading the guidebook front to back when I'm working with a deck, I think I might have a better experience with this the next time around, so we shall see. And then I have 2 more. This one is my Everyday Enchantments Tarot. I have edged this in multicolors. It's a little bit darker on the edging than I initially planned, but that's all right. I trimmed it and corner rounded it so that I left only the bottom border, and it really made these, A, a much nicer size because this was a really large deck, and B, it really opened up the artwork. This is my only really truly modern deck, and I think it reads really well. Lots of great scenes on these cards and some really unique perspectives on the cards. Like, look at that death card. So good. Shayla, lay down, please. My dog is like, I'm going to scratch a nest to China right now. Shayla, lay down. Good girl. She's not sure. She's circling. But anyways, I think the quartz are really great in here. I think the minors are really great in here. Okay, I like the majors too, but I think what helps me here is the scenes are so vivid. You really get a feeling for the quartz. You really get a feeling for the minors. I think majors are a little easier for a lot of us when we're newer to tarot. So I mean, look at this page of blades. Like, you totally know who that is, right? Like, I feel like it does such a good job of just, sorry for the lack of focus here. Huh. I'm going to blame this on Peggy because it's her tablet. Just kidding.
That's what I mean to you.
She's shouting because she has headphones on. Anyways, these are the backs, and after trimming, I still think they look just as lovely. A little bit of this part of the butterfly got cut off on that side. The sides got cut into a little bit, but not in a way that detracts from their beauty, I don't think. So yeah, I love this deck trimmed. It is matte. I love the cardstock. It feels nice and thick. This was a Red Feather Schiffer publication. And yeah, it's really good. The guidebook is also really good and tells a story for every card as well. So you kind of get a picture into, or a glimpse into what's happening for the people in the cards. Last, but definitely, oh no, second to last, but definitely not least. Oh, I've got a few more. I lied about the amount of decks I have. This is the Textured Tarot by Lisa McLaughlin. Guidebook is good, but this deck reads so good out of the box that I don't very often look at the guidebook. These are the backings. I've edged this in a dark gray. I first edged it in a light gray and it was too light, so I re-edged it in a dark charcoaly gray. This is my first collage deck that I would like, other than Danielle Noel. And I love this deck. It reads so freaking well for me. The images give me so much to work with. I love the Knight of Cups with no pants. Like, I don't know, I just love it. This was so fantastic for me out of the box. I will say the cardstock is really thick and stiff. It doesn't move with you. And I am a rifle shuffler. The first week I worked with this deck, I went to rifle shuffle and one of the cards just bent, like creased in half. It was horrible. Now it's smoothed out some. I don't know if I can see it anymore, but I used to be able to hold the deck together and immediately spot which card I wrecked. It seems to have flattened out over time because I can't find it anymore. But there's definitely a card in here with a definite wrinkle that's been repressed down from where it creased. That would be my one complaint. It's a thick cardstock, but it has no give. And so it's really easy to bend or crease these if you're not careful, and if you rifle, which I do. I hand over hand most of the time with this deck now because of that, but it's worth it because it's so beautiful and the cards just have so much information on them. I mean, look at that page of Wands. Why is maybe my camera's focused and it's just my eyeballs. I don't know. So yeah, I really, really love that deck. And before I forget, there's two more. I had to actually get up off my table and I'm almost going to trip over this giant pile of tarot decks here. So that is my Textured Tarot. Next, this is the deck that lives in my purse, so I had to go get it because it is part of my collection, and it obviously sees a decent amount of use because it is the one that I always have no matter what. I usually have one of my larger decks in my purse throughout the week when I'm going to work and stuff, but this is the one that just lives in my purse because it's portable, and this is one of the very first sewing things she ever made, way before she started making Peggy bags. So it's a little bit rough, but she literally made it to exactly fit this. This is a trimmed copy of the Llewellyn Tarot by Llewellyn. And I trimmed all of the titles off, and in a brown fine tip Sharpie, I put the number here in that corner and then the elemental symbol in the other. On the majors, I wrote the number of the major and then the title, so that says Death. I'm sorry it's not focused properly, but it does better from down here. Anyway, this is a really good Rider-Waite clone, Rider-Waite-Smith clone. The images say exactly what they need to say. They're not hard to read. I probably don't even need the titles on them, but it's a really nice neutral deck. It's got that kind of medieval feel to it, which is kind of fun. Yeah. I still have the guidebook, which goes into all the Welsh mythology behind this deck. I've edged it in brown as well. Those are the backs. But I don't really use the guidebook. It's too much layer, and I like this to just be kind of like a little Rider-Waite-Smith clone, so I don't use it that way. And this is such a fitted bag that I have to like slide some in and then slide the rest in after. And it's got these two little spread cards, which I tested Sharpie on to see how it would take it, but those are kind of handy to have in there as well. So it's like a little tarot kit that I can just take with me and go. So it's cute, super cute. And my newest deck that I have in right now that I'm working with this week, so this was also set aside, is the Cerrito. And oh my gosh, you guys, this deck has kind of blown me away. I knew I would like it. It was on my wish list for a really long time, but man, I really love it. I really love it. So it has a bit of gloss to it. It is gold gilded in this really pretty shiny gold that just has like a mirror-like shine to it. It feels really good. Same kind of gilding actually as what we have on the Spirit Keepers Tarot, but this one has a slightly brassier gold finish and the Spirit Keepers is a little bit more yellow, but very similar kind of high-end feeling gold finish. It doesn't feel like the kind that would flake or like it'll wear, but it doesn't feel like it would flake off, if that makes sense. It's not glittery, it's just mirror-like shine. And it's not sticky. Like this deck has some gloss to it, but it doesn't stick. It's this beautiful cardstock. I love the gloss on this. I don't know why, I do. This deck reads so well. It has great diversity in it. It has some really unique takes on the cards. Like my first experience when I first took this deck out of the box and I was flipping through, I did a random draw just to see what would happen. Pulled the Knight of Swords and I'm like, well, that looks like somebody who's kind of no bullshit. Sorry for the swearing. And then I opened up the guidebook and it's like basically talks about how this is somebody who doesn't take any crap. And I was like, yeah, it just, I don't know. It's so clear. It's such an easy read. And yeah, so I'm working with it this week and I'll get to know it a little bit better at the time I'm filming these videos. And by now you will have probably seen me talk about this in other contexts. But yeah, I'm really, really loving this. These are the backs. They're not my favorite backs ever, but they're fine. It's the fronts I'm into anyway, so that's all right. They make sense for the deck, but oh, those colors too. They're just so bold and you can see the texture of the art paper or canvas behind. It looks like a paper, like a watercolor paper. You can kind of see that in the images and I love that. Anyway, loving this deck, and you guys, that is it. 13 minutes in, and that is all of my tarot decks that are physically in my possession right now. There are a few more coming my way this year, and since I have a few minutes, I'll tell you what I can remember of those. So let's see. I am waiting on the Bone Stone and Earth Flesh Tarot by Anna Turian and Avalon Cameron. I am waiting on a really special indie copy of a Harry Potter tarot. I'm waiting on, what are some others? Oh, the Stolen Child Tarot, which was a Indiegogo, I think, possibly a Kickstarter. I think it was Indiegogo. I'm still, at the time I'm filming this, waiting for my last Unicorn Tarot from Kickstarter. I backed that in 2017 in like September. It's January 2019 when I'm filming this, and we are still waiting. It's supposed to ship at the end of this month. We'll see if it does. I'm also waiting on the Lightseers Tarot. That one has been mostly on time, which is awesome, and the updates have been fantastic. So that's coming out. That is by Chris Ann. I can't remember her last name. That one looks really stunning. So there's a few things I have on pre-order that I am waiting to come in that I'm really excited about. But this is my collection as of the moment I am filming this. I love watching these kinds of videos, so I hope you enjoyed me sort of flipping through my collection with you. I will do a series like this or a set of videos like this on my Oracle deck collection, but this is my tarot for now, and I hope that this was fun to watch. I will talk to you all again really, really soon. Remember to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff so you don't miss my future videos, and I will talk to you again later. Bye!